Hello, and welcome to A Small Employer's Guide to Engaging Tech Talent, Part 1, Hiring. This video is presented by ICTC, the Information and Communications Technology Council, as part of TADE, Talent Acquisition for the Digital Economy, a free capacity building program supporting small and medium-sized Alberta businesses. That's those 98% of Alberta employers with fewer than 500 employees. Funded by the Alberta Ministry of Labour and Immigration and the Government of Canada, the purpose of the program is in the name. It's designed to provide tools to Alberta businesses to help them attract, hire, and retain digital talent. I'm Tracy Martel, a program coordinator for TADE, and I'd like to tell you a bit about the program off the top before I hand things over to our HR expert, ICTC's own Senior HR Manager, Christina Anderson. Right now, Alberta, like many places, is seeing a large investment in the digital transformation of businesses. Not only is Alberta home to a growing tech ecosystem, tech talent is really key to businesses in every sector to help them compete and grow. That's why TADE is specifically focused on helping smaller companies ramp up digital talent. In addition to an HR toolkit, there are multiple interactive elements to the program, including mini virtual career fairs to connect employers and digitally skilled job seekers, HR workshops, equity, diversity, and inclusion forums, a candidate technical skills assessment tool, up-to-date labor market information, and videos like this one. This video is intended to support our employer toolkit, which is a step-by-step guide that includes worksheets, tips, and best practices to find, hire, and retain digital talent. The link to download the free toolkit is in the description below. The link will also take you to the TADE homepage, where you'll find other TADE resources and events. The toolkit follows the process of hiring and retention in order, and the videos are no different. This video is just part 1 of 2, and in it we will focus on hiring. The second video available will pick up where this one leaves off with your new hire and focuses on onboarding and retention. Now, I'd like to introduce my ICTC colleague, Christina Anderson, Senior HR Manager, who will take you through this process. Christina started her HR career in talent acquisition, working in both the public and private sectors in Canada and the UK before focusing on the IT sector. She has a wide range of experience from hiring models and tools to being a champion for change by leading diversity and inclusion programs. She holds a Bachelor of Arts Honors, Criminology and Psychology, and an MCP in Human Resources from Carleton University. Christina has also achieved a Certified Human Resources Professional and Certified Human Resources Leader designations from the Human Resources Professional Association. Christina, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm quite excited to be here today to talk about the TADE handbook today. So as Tracy mentioned, we're going to kind of break it up into some sections. Part 1 is going to talk about hiring, really focusing on the job description and job ads. So let's get started. Now, you will see in the toolkit, hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. If not, it is linked in the description, that there has been an example company created to help kind of guide you and provide examples through the toolkit as you go through it. This will help get you acquainted with how to kind of use the toolkit and put some things into perspective. So to give you a bit of a synopsis about the Awesome Systems IT company, they're growing rapidly. They have about 200 employees and they're still working on establishing their HR function. They are looking for a software engineer as an example we can use throughout kind of this video today. And they're also very mindful of engaging talent, but also making sure that they're building a culture that will want people to stay in throughout kind of their tenure here. So where do we start? When you look at kind of starting to make a hiring plan, you need to focus on what kind of your goals are. So let's use the software engineer as an example. You have some ideas about how to go about this, but you want to make sure that you are maximizing your time, your resources, and you're finding the best talent for your team. Now, whether or not you have an HR resource to help do some research. Experience always tells me and my colleagues that having a formal process is the best approach to really helping you get those prospective employees. So let's kind of break down a bit from the start to help set you up for success in kind of each step of hiring. So it's very important, first of all, to familiarize yourself and review the Alberta labor standards. Start off with a hiring plan. We're going to walk through developing a job description, how to write a job ad, because a job ad is different from a job description, and how to then share the ad and kind of promote the role within kind of your local economy. Now, as an Alberta employer, like I mentioned, it's very important to make sure you know the labor standards for Alberta. It's always very important to double check when you start a hiring process to make sure nothing has changed since the last time you hired. Now, we're hoping this isn't the first time, or maybe it is the first time you've hired someone, but take a look at the changes. See if anything has changed around hours of work, around overtime, around holidays, vacation information, workplace health and safety, and there may have been some changes since the last time you had to kind of review the standards. Okay. So you may have heard a quote, if you don't know where you are going, you're going to end up someplace else. It could be by Yogi Berra, so we'll just kind of go with that. But when you start taking a look at this, and as an HR professional and recruiter for many years, I've seen it happen many times where a hiring need is identified and someone perhaps is put in to fill that gap without really understanding what the need is for the role. How does this typically end? Unfortunately, usually not very well for either parties. So a very important starting point is getting clear on your needs so you can find that employee who has the skills to meet the requirements of the role. Carefully think through what your hiring goals are in advance. Write them down. Do some research. Complete the pre-hiring worksheet, and there is an example in the toolkit, once again linked in the description, that will walk you through kind of these questions and these steps to make sure that you're finding somebody who not only fits the skills and the talents, but also will be good for the business overall. Now, you may also start to do some research at this stage. Take a look at other job postings and other well-known sites, see what other skills, attributes are being requested for a role of this nature. Decide, do you need this role to be full-time, part-time, or perhaps even a contract just for a short-term nature to fill in the gap that you have. So really think through all of these aspects before starting to kind of put anything together. Now we'll keep using Awesome Systems IT as an example kind of as we go through this, okay? Now, once you have your thoughts, you've captured them down, kind of what you're looking for, it's time to write a job description. Job descriptions are very important because it's going to help you showcase and develop what the role needs to be. It's going to help you think about the responsibilities, the duties, how and where the work's going to be completed. It really summarizes the important aspects of the job and once again brings the focus back to the needs of the company. Job descriptions tend to be a little bit longer. They are much more detailed than sometimes what you'll see as a job ad, and we'll go through that in a few minutes. So you want to make sure that you're putting all the information in there of what would make a candidate successful. So think about these kind of key considerations. What's the primary responsibilities of the job? What's the level of the complexity of this work? How does this job interact with others in the organization? How does it interact with people externally? Who would this person report to? Who would their manager be? How does the manager support this individual's role, outcomes, and success in that job? Is the level of the role entry level? Are you looking for a student? Are you looking for a new graduate? Are you looking for someone intermediate? Are you looking for a senior experience or perhaps leadership experience? And also, where does the work get done? In today's world, we have quite a hybrid of on-site, working in shared offices, working from home. So take a look at kind of how that will play into the role as well. And then lastly, but not leastly, what are the skills? What are the experience? What do you want them to accomplish in their jobs previously that will make them a success in this role? One way to help identify this is if you have someone who's already doing the role, sit down and talk with them. What are you actually doing? What makes the success in your role? What are some of the challenges you come up to? So that will really help focus the role when you get to that interview process. Now, here is the example from Awesome Systems IT. It's in the toolkit, once again linked in the description for your review. And they broke down very simple, very straightforward, what the responsibilities, what the duties, the working conditions, the skills and experience required for this type of role. Now that we have a job description, let's talk about drafting the job ad. So this is a posting that the candidates get insight into your role. Here's your chance to really show off your company, have fun with it, show your culture, show the dynamics of what it's like to be in your company. Really provide that window into the role, into the team, because remember, a job posting is designed to attract people. It's not meant to impede or to be a barrier of someone interesting or someone to take a look at it. You want them to get excited about this, click on it, and to learn more, and hopefully have a chance to talk with someone from your company. Now, you could just use your job description. There's nothing wrong with that, but it would be slightly less attractive, potentially a little bit more boring because of the length and the detail in it. So you really want to use those elements that will showcase your company. That's why writing a job description is its own step. Think of it like marketing 101 when you really kind of put it into an essence. So you're going to be marketing your company. You're going to be explaining to potential candidates why they'd want to work with you. So really sit down and think about coming back to that culture. What are your values? What's the work environment? What are the benefits? What are the perks you offer that will attract somebody to apply to this position? Really kind of capture the magic, right, of the job by emphasizing what this person could be doing, what they could be learning if they become successful in this role. For example, we'll use the software engineer again. You can start off the job ad saying, do you dream in HTML, right? Let them envision themselves in this role. That's how you're going to attract the more qualified people, the people who want to kind of grow into this role, people who perhaps can bring that creativity and dimensions that you're looking for in this position. And even talk to the manager. Once again, link it back to what would a top candidate be doing in this job, right? What are 2 or 3 things this person would be accomplishing over the course of the first 6 to 12 months? Put that back into the job description. Show them what they'll be doing. Show them the challenges they'll be facing. It's a story. Tell your story, get people inspired, get them to apply. Okay. Now, there are some do's and don'ts, and we do list them fully in the toolkit. We'll go over just a couple here, just the general guidelines once again, to ensure that your posts are relating to the role. I always recommend running it through kind of a gender or a language review site like Textio. There's many out there. Most of them do offer a free trial run for 1 to 2 weeks to see if it works for you, if you like what it's producing, before you have to see about purchasing. And there's a variety of different purchasing brackets, so take a look, but it's always good to run it through because that way you're making sure that you're not excluding anybody from potentially being interested in this position. Don't use jargon, anagrams. ICTC loves our anagrams. I cannot tell you how much we do, but we would not put those in a job posting because it wouldn't translate to someone outside the organization. So make sure you're using language that will intrigue people, want them to kind of post, want them to follow through with this posting and kind of apply. And don't use any local verbiage because sometimes what that happens is it won't translate across cross-cultural candidates coming your way. So once again, keeping your roles open to the most diverse candidates, to the best candidate possible. Those are kind of the general rule of thumbs. The rest are, as I mentioned, are in the toolkit. You can go through them, but that's the spirit that you want kind of the job ad to go out with to once again attract people and to get them intrigued about your company. Here is the example that Awesome Systems IT put together. They've kind of run through what it would look like, but in essence, covering again, talk about your company, sell yourselves, talk about your culture, market what you do. In your job description, yes, you're talking about the role, but get to see themselves in the role. You know, does this get you out of the bed in the morning? Do you love to do this? Do you dream of challenging projects like this? Provide key examples that they can envision themselves doing so they want you to go ahead and click on that apply button and get to speak to someone. Talk about the benefits, describe why you would want to work at the company. Really outline what would attract somebody, kind of that employee value proposition. What would bring them to want to come work with you and then stay with you? Now you have your job posting, so you're all ready to kind of post it, get it out there into the cyber universe, shall we say. So we're going to run through a couple of places that you can post it to attract some strong candidates, especially in the digital sphere, that will really help you kind of draw in the best candidates for your role. Now you start off majority of people start off with job sites. It's one of the most common approaches in kind of posting positions out there to attract candidates is online recruitment sites, job posting sites like Indeed, like ZipRecruiter. Many of these job postings offer a free posting. It's kind of the first time you go through as an introductory service to their sites. So take a look at that, see what kind of works for your budget when you're looking at your hiring needs. You have Simply Hired. You also have Glassdoor, which does allow you to post your jobs. You can even have a free employer page. This does come with the pros and cons because the free employer page does allow people to post feedback on your interviews, does allow employees to post their experience working with you. So it does come with the option of showcasing that culture you have, but also if someone does post anything negative or defamatory, you do have to look at taking care of that as well. So pros and cons, but there's lots of options out there for kind of job sites. Social media, we'll talk about that on the next slide. But you also have employment agencies as an option as well. If you need help sourcing candidates or you don't have the internal resources, it's a great option to take a look at. Most of them do function on a fee based on the person's salary. So have a conversation, see if that's within your budget. They can perform a lot of the essential upfront responsibilities for screening, interviewing, providing you the top or two candidates, and you can then take to kind of the final stages of your interview process. Okay. And lastly but not leastly, we have LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. It allows you to post positions on there as well. There are paid versions, there are free versions. So you can accomplish a lot with a basic profile, and you can also reach out to a lot of different people because you can have a basic career page you can take a look at as well. It allows your employees to post roles. It allows you to post what's going on in your company. And with LinkedIn as well, once you post a role, your employees can repost it and kind of create a circular event of come work with us, come work with me. This is what we're looking for. So it also provides insight into the company culture. And LinkedIn does allow you to source for candidates as well. So if you do have someone on staff who has the time and the capability to source, you can look up by people's skills, location, past employers. So it gives you a lot of opportunities to then reach out to people and inquire if they'd be interested in kind of working with your company. So let's take a look at some social media. So social media is the world that we do live in quite frequently right now. So you have options to post, but make sure that you do have a social media footprint. It doesn't have to be a large footprint, but it is something that is there that people can look into because this can help you reach an entirely new pool of candidates. Posting is free. If you have budget, you can sponsor your posts. You can make them highlighted. So it has lots of options for you in that aspect as well. The benefits of kind of posting on Twitter and Instagram, they offer you a chance for dialogue about the role with people. People can pick up on the posts based on the hashtags you've used, example, remote work, hashtag Calgary jobs, hashtag software engineer. So it allows people to then respond and conversations can be started that way. So if you are posting on social media, make sure you have someone who's checking it. So if anyone does post, you can respond to them within a timely matter of usually 24 to 48 hours. Okay. Also, make sure that you have a cadence. So social media does require you to have, like I mentioned, a footprint. It doesn't have to be a large one, but a cadence could be that you post once a day, for example. I know people in marketing are probably thinking, oh, we have to post 5 or 6 times a day. There's very set timelines, but we're just keeping it fairly streamlined for the moment if you don't have the capability. So you do have something on your social media that people can come back and take a look to. Get your employees to share it. Get your employees to challenge people. Who wouldn't want to work with me, as an example? Or who wouldn't love to do a job like this? It creates that excitement. It creates that culture, thinking their colleagues, potential future colleagues are posting this. I want to potentially work with that person. So once again, it's that engagement factor that allows you to showcase the kind of the culture and spirit of your company. Now, we do have a multitude of other ways to kind of post and promote your job ad. So let's take a look at some other options that we have as well. So very popular, depending on kind of the individual you're looking for, is campus job boards. Post-secondary institutions tend to have all sorts of great talent. Depending if you're looking for someone who's a new grad, they may have some couple of co-op terms under their belt, which is great. You could also be looking for someone a bit more senior. So why not see if that campus job board has an alumni association? Most alumni associations don't have a fee, some do have a fees, but if you have someone who has graduated from that school working with you, they can sometimes post on the alumni board for free of charge. So take a look into that. It's kind of an option for cost savings there as well. You also have organizations. You have local organizations in Calgary. You have national organizations that can help out. Like, for example, bringing it back to the software engineer. You have the Association of Professional Engineers you can post on. You have IEEE. They do have small fees for postings. Once again, take a look and see how this fits into your budget. But also there's local areas, local groups in your area that you can post roles at, sometimes at little or no cost. There's JCI Calgary, there's Meetup, there's CBWM Calgary, which is Connected Business Women's Network. So make connections with these local groups, see if they can post. They do want to support their people. So if the role matches up for their audience, I'm sure they'd be happy to kind of see how they can work together with you on that. We have career fairs. People still love going to career fairs. I still love going to career fairs, talking to people about their background and experience, kind of what their career goals are. So reach out to see who's hosting career fairs. They could be virtually, they could be in person. So keep an idea, it could be a bit of a hybrid model going forward with that as well. Also, I recommend taking a look inside. What's your internal posting policy? What's your internal hiring policy? Perhaps you already have great talent who's ready to take that next step. You can see them growing into that role. They're 75, 80% there. You can help them get there to the rest. So consider your internal skill sets as well. With internal skill sets, why not ask for referrals? We have employees who know the culture, who knows what it takes to be successful in this role. So talk to them, say, do you have any referrals? Create a referral program. Now, referral programs, you think, okay, we have to look about rewarding our staff for doing so. Definitely. It does not always have to be monetary if your budget is tight. Referral reward programs can be something as simple as you get a day off of work in lieu as incentive when that person joins. So be creative with it as well. Give your chance for your employees to showcase who they know, who they might kind of want to come into the company as well. Lastly, but not leastly, is your career site. So your company website. So we've talked about posting it on these job boards, on LinkedIn, on social media, on these campus boards, potentially going to career fairs. It all has to link back to your career page or your website. So make sure that you have, it doesn't have to be a large section, but make sure there is something in that people can go to and they can read your story. They can relate to it so that when they see this job, they follow the link to your career page and they see what makes you you, and that makes them want to apply further. So once again, keep your story in mind on your career page. Here's the example that Austin Systems IT went with, just to kind of give you an idea of what they chose. And once again, this example is in the handbook, so it is linked in the description. But they took a multiple point plan. And we always recommend having multiple touch points, multiple plans when you're working with a hiring plan. So they decided to go with a referral program because once again, who knows the company better? Who knows what it's going to take to succeed than someone who's already in there? They also decided to do some searching on LinkedIn. So they did some sourcing, looked at some individuals who matched their profiles, sent some messages out to see who might be interested, started some conversations that way. And they also finally posted on LinkedIn for a free posting. And they also did free posting on Indeed, and they put up some messages on Twitter and Instagram. So taking advantage of kind of those job boards and that social media. So using all these approaches really allowed them to get some really great candidates and to get to look at some really good resumes that would be great for their team. So now we're going to move on to the next part. So you have your plan, you have your job description, you have your job posting, and now you're starting to receive some applicants. You're starting to take a look at some candidates. So let's talk about the interviewing and hiring process. So once your job's posted, you're starting to receive these fantastic applicants and candidates. Now, you may not have an applicant tracking system. They may be coming in through email. Doesn't matter which one you have. I always recommend that remember to protect all of the applicant's personal information by collecting only the information you need and storing it and sharing it with only people who essentially need this for the hiring process, because you do have to be in accordance with the Personal Information Protection Act. Okay, it's very important to make sure that you have that covered when you're in your hiring steps. We're also going to go through how to do some interviews, how to make a decision, and then how to put a job offer together and kind of get it out there. So once again, these steps are going to be outlined in the toolkit. linked in the description. But one of the best pieces I can advise and kind of give you is invest the time once again in developing a good hiring process up front. This is going to increase your chances of finding the best person for your role. Now we're going to go through, like I mentioned, outlining step by step, but keep thinking of that. Keep coming back to the original reason of why you opened the job, of why these skills are needed, how that's going to fill the gap in your business. So we're looking at applicants now. So you have some resumes. You've probably got some amazing resumes. You've probably got some resumes and you're probably wondering why this person expressed interest. You will get a range. Okay, so be prepared for that. Not everyone who applies is going to be ideal for your job. So you're going to have to start screening applicants. This is where the work that you've done, understanding the job, knowing the essential skills, and really understanding the experience is going to help you screen these candidates and kind of respond to the next steps. So as you start to review and screen, the first kind of screening is remove any of the applications that don't have any of the essential qualifications, okay? They don't have experience in the role, they don't have the language requirements. So you will have to be somewhat harsh because you need to make sure that you are finding people that are the right skills. So go through them, review them, screen the first level out who don't meet kind of what you're looking for. Now, once you've kind of done that, you're going to look at the remaining applicants for evidence of those skills and qualities that you've outlined in your job ad. Okay. Now, when you're reviewing these resumes with yourself or perhaps the hiring manager, always keep in mind that you don't want to screen on personal information. Okay. You want to screen on the candidate's capabilities, right? You don't want to screen based off foreign experience or credentials, as this can add such value and depth to your team kind of going forward. So really take a look at skills. What have they done? What have they accomplished? Hone in those areas because that's what's going to make a great team member for your opening. Okay. So now that you've done your screening, we're going to start thinking about planning out your interview process. Now, there are many interview types. So this is where you have to sit down and think again, what is right for this role, this position? Okay. Think who will be involved? Why is it important, right? Let's talk about the structure. So you need to start looking at questions, deciding kind of what questions you'd like to ask before the interview. This allows you to have a set structure, which will help making decisions. It also helps making sure you're having consistent and fair process when you are interviewing people. Nothing is 100% consistent and fair, but the reason you want to make sure you're asking it the same way is that you are streamlining it and you're being as fair and consistent as humanly possible. Okay, you want to make sure you're asking all of the applicants the same questions. You want to evaluate them the same way. This can help further eliminate any biases, as we are all humans and we know we do have unconscious bias, but by having these questions set up, they're weighted, the responses are weighted, and you can rank them, will help alleviate that as much as possible. Now, word of caution, when doing interviews, I always want to make sure you're watching out that you're not basing your decision on a person who is good at interviewing or who is the best talker. You may really connect with someone, they're very verbose, you're having a great conversation, but what they're actually talking about is not related to the skills that you're looking for this job. So being good at interviewing does not always make the best person for the role. So keep that in mind, hence why having kind of the questions prepared up front and having them weighted, which we do provide a description of how to do that in the toolkit a little bit later. Now, coming back to kind of the interview structure, you do have a couple of different options when interviewing. You have a pre-screen, which is typically completed by telephone. This type of interview is used to narrow down the number of candidates. If you have, let's say, 100 applicants, you need to narrow it down to 50 or 25. The pre-screen will help you kind of go through that because it helps eliminate people who don't have the skills or experience once you talk to them based on their CV. These normally run about 30 minutes. You have also behavioral focused interviews. This type of interview is the most commonplace one happening currently. It is used to assess how candidates have demonstrated specific competencies and behaviors by asking from examples from past behaviors. So the approach of this type of interview is that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. These normally last 45 or 60 minutes, can be done video like this, can be done in person, so different options depending on kind of what your situation is. Now, as we are looking in the digital sphere, we are going to be looking at technical interviews or assessment interviews. Now, these interviews can occur in person again, they can occur virtually, they can occur by assignment. that you've given the candidate to do on their own time or on your time. So it really does provide you a lot of flexibility depending what you're looking for. Like you might consider a candidate to complete a job-related test or assignment to see how they would respond to a situation that comes up regularly in this role. So you're giving them a real life case scenario of what would happen. How would they handle it? How would they respond to it? How would they respond to it? Gives you once again insight into how they would actually act if this came up during the role, should they be your selected candidate. These can vary, normally 60 minutes plus, depending on the complexity of the questions or assignments or assessments you're providing for them. You also have team and peer interviews. This is often done if you have perhaps one or two or more candidates and you are having trouble making a decision. You can have someone currently in the role sit down with them and do a peer interview. This also provides the candidate great insight into what it would be like to work with this person or to work with that team dynamic. So once again, it kind of gives you the opportunity to interview them, but also gives the candidate a chance to interview you as well. So it does provide that kind of that back and flow dynamic. Okay. So I've given you some examples, and as in the toolkit as well, different kind of interview techniques you can go through. So take a look at them, decide which might be best for the role you are looking at. And once again, take a look at the rating guide to ensure that your scoring and your weighting is there and kind of make sure that you are being consistent with your interviews. Some general do's and don'ts we always like to provide as well. We have listed them fully out in the toolkit, once again linked in the description. But I wanted to kind of highlight that when you're having these interviews, remember it's a conversation. Okay. This is a conversation between the candidate and you, the candidate and the potential peer, the candidate and the potential manager. They're also interviewing you as well. So listen. Make sure you're listening when they're talking. Make sure you're listening when they're asking questions and envisioning how that will kind of play out in the current team environment. Okay. Now, don't ask any questions based on prohibited grounds of discrimination. We have listed them in the slide here, and they are in the toolkit. Now, you may not ask these questions. People may volunteer this information in a conversation once again. Someone may volunteer because they're being friendly, they're talking about their family life, their spouse, their children. You may want to reciprocate because perhaps you have that or perhaps you don't. You want to say, that's fantastic, that sounds lovely. Try to move on as easily as possible. Okay. If they're talking about their family dynamic, say, okay, let's move on to the next question. You don't want to kind of delve into that because you don't want to be seen as being any form of possible discrimination. Should they come on board? Wonderful. You'd love to kind of continue that conversation. Okay. Because employers who hire and build that welcoming and inclusive environment from the start, from interviewing to kind of the onboarding, is really what helps attract candidates because they will hear about it. People will post about their experiences. Perhaps on your career site, you have people give you testimonials, what it's like to work there. So with these potential talented people coming on board, remember, once again, have the conversation. Don't kind of post anything that could be seen as limiting potential applicants. You don't want to have any barriers on kind of your job posting. So try to remove that, any stereotypes, any first impressions. Make sure, once again, it's easy to read, it's easy to have those conversations, and make sure that you're leaving the candidate feeling they had a conversation, they know what to expect for the next steps, okay, and when you're going to follow up in a timely manner. Be transparent. Say, we're not going to be able to get back to you for a week. Follow up in a week. Okay, make sure you kind of set the example for them of what the next steps will be. As mentioned, there is a complete interview guide template in the toolkit, once again linked in the description, that will help you ask what questions for what positions. There's even a link to job-specific questions in the digital sphere, which will help if you are perhaps unsure what questions to ask. It'll break it down for you. The toolkit example in here will break down questions based on predetermined criteria. It's going to give you something to start with. Make it your own and kind of go from there. Okay. Now, as we mentioned earlier, when you're doing your interviews, you may perhaps have back-to-back interviews. You may have a lot of interviews because you want to bring this person on board as soon as possible, but make sure you give yourself time between interviews. You've done all this work, you have this interview structure, you have these ratings of the questions, they're weighted, you have all the information you need. So after each interview, take the time to complete the assessment. Take time to finish your interview notes. It's important to evaluate the candidate's interview by rating the responses after you've had that conversation. Don't wait till the next day or after you've had 5 interviews in a row, because unfortunately, once again, we are humans and things can kind of somewhat become muddled, or you may not be recalling things as frequently or as easily. So take those 5 or 10 minutes after each interview and make sure you complete that, the kind of rating that you've put together for yourself. Okay. Now, keep in mind when making a decision, you're going to have hopefully lots of options to take a look at, but you want to focus on how their skills compare to each other. You've assigned them value, you've weighted them. How are these skills important to the job? Okay. You want to make sure that you're going through them each and that you're once again evaluating them. Okay. The evaluation should align with your interview questions as to the homework that you've done, put it all together. The value should weigh up to 100, and that should give you a ranking for each of the candidates. Okay. Review the candidates. You may not pick the candidate that has the highest ranking. There may be another factor coming in, but it will help you evaluate them at the same time and really kind of focus on what you need for your team. Okay. Now, in some instances, you may want to go ahead and look at doing references or background checks as to help make your final decision. So references and background checks help provide additional decision-making data. Okay. Keep in mind that with references today, some companies may not provide references. They may only provide confirmation of date and title of the person who was working there. Okay. So if you are asking for references, usually ask for at least 3, and for those whom the person reported to give you that insight if you're looking for that data to kind of make that decision. As with background checks, make sure that it's something that is related to the role. Are they going to be working with vulnerable citizens? And yes, you need to get a police check for vulnerable checks. Okay, but make sure it does relate to the role as a way to help kind of once again make the decision about the ideal candidate. So we have once again brought together Awesome Systems IT to give you an example of their approach that they've gone through. So they started with screening resumes to find top candidates, as we did as well. They chose to review the candidates as they came through. So the hiring manager reviewed each candidate when they applied, rather than waiting until the role closed. Okay, they tagged whom they thought would be the most best fit for the role to kind of review together with the HR individual. Now, they built an interview guide that aligned with the job requirements. They have a rating scale, like the example in the toolkit. The key criteria included communication skills, future goals, technical skills, product development, design, work ethic, and dedication. They also knew they wanted to have more than one person in the interview process. So they have the hiring manager, and they had a team-based interview as well to represent the team-based culture they have. So they chose 2 interviews to kind of interview this individual. Finally, they had a technical assessment as well to evaluate the programming skills of this individual to see kind of once again the best talent for this opening. So they took a multi-period approach. Like we talked about earlier, they planned it out. They knew who would be in the interviews, they knew what questions to ask, and they knew that there would be a technical assessment and who would be evaluating that as well. So moving on, we now hopefully have someone ready for a job offer. You've done your job descriptions, your posting, you've done your reviews of your candidates, you've done your interviewing, and hopefully you have 1 or 2 candidates now that you want to kind of proceed with. It's very exciting. So let's take a look at how to kind of put that together. So you have a couple of options. Normally, we recommend reaching out to the candidate to schedule a call or just call them, depending on the relationship that you've established and the communication style, to have a pre-offer call. This pre-offer call is going to help you gauge the interest and hopefully get them excited about joining the company as much as you are about having them come on board. So when you connect with them, be once again transparent and authentic. It speaks volumes that you enjoyed meeting them, you loved learning about their experience, and that you'd be thrilled for them to join your team. Right? Go over the potential start date, confirm what their notice period is, review the salary that you talked about in the interview process. Perhaps salary expectations may have changed since you last spoke to them. Perhaps they've done a little more research. So always kind of touch base on that again. Talk about the benefits, go over them, what the benefits are with them, provide them that information about your group plan, potentially your RSPs, potentially your pension. Whatever your benefits are, go over it with them so they can once again get excited and envision themselves being a benefit of those benefits. Also talk about time off, what that looks like within your company, and any additional information that would be exciting to someone coming on board to your company. Do you provide equipment? Do you provide a stand-sit desk for them to work from home? So really go through all of that once again, because you want them to envision themselves being in this role after the interview process you've gone through. And at the end, Ask them, how does this sound? Do you have any questions? You want to hear what they think after you provided kind of what your package is for them. Okay. Now let them know that after this conversation, be following up by sending an offer letter with all the details you just talked about, so they'll have it in writing, and that you're looking forward to having them on the team. Now, there is a chance, like I mentioned when talking about salary, they may ask for a higher salary. Okay. They may ask for more time off. Anything could happen in the conversation. So listen to them, be transparent. If you are at the top of your salary bracket, let them know this is the maximum we can offer right now. But our annual review period is at this date. And at this date, you would be eligible for a potential increase. So paint the picture for them of what it would look like should they get on board and should they get to that point. Okay, so you could have options at that point in time. Okay, if you do have potential room, once again, be transparent and say, I'm going to, go back and talk to leadership, talk to HR, and I'll follow up with you. And follow up with them within the next 24 hours. Okay, the follow-up could even be the letter of offer that has the slightly higher salary, or it could even have the perhaps additional vacation they were looking for. So once again, go in, listen, see kind of what they're looking for, and really kind of have that discussion from there. Okay. This is also one of the reasons why you do want to have your second or runner-up candidate available to you should this not work out. Okay, so you always want to kind of have that in your back pocket. And also it's great to kind of keep for talent pools, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. Okay, so once again, having this discussion is really going to help you set up for success in the offer letter stage. Hopefully when you send it out, they'll sign and it will come back to you all signed and ready to start. So the offer letter. Now the offer letter contains a lot of information. So we'll go through the basics here of what should and could be in an offer letter, but always remember that an offer letter is a contract. So you do want to have it reviewed by someone in the legal profession, okay, to make sure that you are once again abiding by the Alberta labor standards and also any other kind of legal information you need to have in there as well around terminations and notice periods. So your offer letter, let's just start off with on a more positive note. You want to have your position and your responsibilities. So put the job title, okay? Make sure now you have your job description, your wonderful, long, detailed job description you're so proud of. Have that listed as an appendix because that is what's going to hold them accountable in the role. They can always refer back to is what is my duties? What are my responsibilities? They are listed there, okay? Outline the hours of employment as they can vary. Some companies are 35, some companies are 40, some have on-call. List out the location of your work. As we mentioned earlier, everything's a little bit changing right now. So we do have working from home, perhaps in the province of Alberta, working from home in Canada. Perhaps there's a specific job location they have to attend to. Perhaps it's a hybrid model. So detail what that is so that it, once again, lets the potential employee know what the expectations are. Okay. Outline the core working hours. Are they 8 to 5, 9 to 6? Do you have flexibility to start from 7 in the morning? Do you have flexibility to work a little bit later? So outline what that looks like for them as well. Make sure you have the salary or the hourly rate listed in there. Have what the amount is and when it's paid. Is it biweekly? Is it monthly? Is it on the 1st of every month? Is it the 30th of every month? So make sure those details are in there as well. Okay. Outline any RSP, any pension. And the reason I recommend putting that in there is because it does add to the offer package. Okay, so outline how it works. You don't have to go into the specifics, but let them know if there's a matching or no matching up to a certain percentage as an example for RSPs. Okay, outline statutory holidays. You have the option of writing down that they're entitled to statutory holidays under the applicable provincial employment standards legislation, or you can just list them out. Okay, so whatever method kind of works best for you. Outline vacation, what they're entitled to on a yearly basis, because if they start throughout the year, it will be prorated. So outline this is what they get per month and on average for the year. Okay, and also you can put in that vacation is subject to approval. Once again, do run this through a legal review, but putting it in there that is subject to approval lets them know they have to make sure it's planned in accordance with the business needs. Okay. Talk about your group benefits plan. Let them know that they're eligible, if you have one, to participate in the plan, obviously subject to terms and conditions of the plan. and outline who pays the premiums. Perhaps you pay 100% of the premiums. Perhaps you pay 50%. So outline that as well, because that does come into effect when decision making for the individual who could be coming onto your team. Okay. Put in there your probationary period, outline how long it is. Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Make sure it's clear in there so the employee knows when that timeline is. Okay. Have a clause around terminations and resignation. Once again, this is very important to make sure you do run this by legal counsel because it does vary by province to province. But outline what the termination options are, what the resignation options are. Do they have to provide 2 weeks for providing notice? Okay. Once again, not a lawyer, so to check this with your hopeful a lawyer you have on hand. Go through and outline that there are policies that they will have to comply with, whether they are in the handbook, whether they're individually written out in policies, but letting them know they do have to comply with them as part of the employment agreement. Okay. And any equipment, if you have any equipment you're providing, outline what that will be, like laptops, cell phones. So once again, it's very clear in the offer letter of what they'll be expecting as part of their package. Okay. Now, when the position has been officially accepted, this is excellent. Get very excited. Now is when you call your other candidates to let them know that they were not successful. The toolkit actually does have a handy script, also has an email example, a letter example to let candidates know they were not successful as well. Because these potential candidates, depending on how you ranked them, could be in your talent pools, which we'll kind of go over after in a bit again. Now, perhaps you weren't successful. Perhaps you sent out your offer letter and they come back with questions, or they come back and they want to talk to you about it further, see what's negotiable, which is completely understandable. So have the call. Don't email them back to negotiate. Say, not a problem, let's hop on a call this time and have the conversation. Find out what they're looking to inquire about. Find out what they're looking to negotiate about. Before you get into that call, though, make sure that you have your research. So do your salary research just to be prepared. There are some free great guides out there. Hayes and Robert Half do free online salary guides by industry. So that can give you some free information as well. Have your total rewards details ready. And when I say total rewards, I mean everything that comes with being an employee at your company. So a salary, it comes with your potential RSP, pensions, whatever you have. It comes with your group benefits. It comes with your equipment. Have all of that ready to reiterate what that entire package is, to once again give them a visual of what it is versus just the salary number they're looking at. And we're not saying this is what they're going to be looking at, but it's better to have this information handy going into the call. Should it come up, you have it at your fingertips to have those discussions, okay? And know your room for negotiation. Going into it, know if you have room for salary, if you have room to negotiate them working from home, full-time, part-time. Maybe they're asking about negotiating when they start, when they don't start. A lot of questions can come up. So make sure you have your information ready to have that call so you can address them during that call and either assure the candidate that you can accommodate, you can negotiate, and you can put something together, or perhaps you can't come to an agreement. And this is when you have to once again, authentically thank them so much, but what they're asking for is just something you cannot accommodate at this point in time. You wish them all the best of luck, and hopefully your paths will connect in the future in a role that's more suited to their expectations. So even if it doesn't end in the person coming on board, you want to make sure you have that conversation that leaves them feeling they were listened to and it just wasn't a match right now, but maybe in the future. Leave the door open because they may have referrals, they may have recommendations, or they may come back at a later point in time with a role, like we mentioned, that might be better suited for their expectations. Okay. Now we also have the option of them declining the offer. You've had the negotiation call, you discussed it with them, and perhaps they're still just, this is not right for them. Okay. Once again, have a call if it's a straight email saying thank you so much, but we're not able to accept your offer. Listen to them. Find out, thank you so much again for meeting with me and the team. Really appreciate it. Can I inquire why you declined the offer? You're not looking to start an argument, but you want to inquire about what wasn't a match. How can I make this a better experience for the next candidate? How can we improve our process? Think about it from that perspective. And once again, thank them. And you never know, you may work with them again in the future. Something else may come up. So you always want to keep that door open and make sure you have that conversation with them. Okay. Now, last thing I want to talk about was talent pools. I have mentioned a few times in a couple of slides we talked about. Now, talent pools is where you're going to keep those individuals who are perhaps second or third. They're all excellent candidates, and sometimes you have a hard decision to make between one, two, or three candidates. So you want to kind of keep them available. You want to keep them intrigued and in touch with your company. So a talent pool is where you do this. You'll put your candidates in there. You'll be transparent with them, let them know you would love to put them in one of your talent pools. And what that means is you'll keep in touch with them every 2, 3, whatever cadence you decide for kind of your talent pools. And let them know that when a role opens up, they are the first people that you're going to reach out to, which also means a shortened interview process because they've already gone through the whole process. So you just have to have a connect with them and potentially the hiring manager to see what has increased, what has changed, what have they learned new since the last time you spoke to them. But the most important thing here again is, as I said earlier, be authentic, right? If you say you're going to follow up in 2 months, follow up in 2 months. Set an email reminder, set a calendar reminder. And the follow-ups don't have to be that we have a job. The follow-ups could just be the role we were thinking of opening up hasn't opened up yet. We're thinking again in maybe another month or two. In the meantime, hope you're doing well. Continue. Maybe follow us on Twitter, follow us on LinkedIn. You're creating an engagement. You're creating a community now of people who are engaged in your culture, engaged in your company. And even if perhaps you reach out to them in that 2 or 3 months and they're not available, they may then say, I'm not, but my colleague is, and they've heard what a great experience this was. I'd love to introduce you. So you have a referral. It creates this community once again to kind of help your company culture thrive and hopefully grow as kind of you're looking to for your company. Now, keep in mind, talent pools do have a life cycle, 3, at most 6 months, sometimes even less in the digital IT sphere. So keep that in mind when you're looking at building your talent pools. Now, I know we've covered quite a bit today. We went through kind of understanding your hiring needs, how to kind of put together a job posting, a job description, how to decide on an interview style, interview questions, weighting and ranking. We've talked about how to kind of put the offer together, how to negotiate it, how to accept a declined offer, and how to create some talent pools. So quite a bit of information, but I do want to remind you this is all in the handbook. It's all linked in the description. So if you kind of intrigued what you've heard today, go back, take a look at the handbook. Its processes are detailed and outlined there for your review. And so hopefully this sets you up for success in kind of starting your hiring needs and those small actionable steps. And we hope to see you very much in the next video. It was my pleasure to speak to you today, share some of my experiences. And with that, I will hand it back over to my colleague, Tracy. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Christina, for that fantastic walkthrough of the process. There are a lot of details to keep track of, and to make sure that you cross off your checklist. So I think the toolkit is a really great resource to help with implementing all the great ideas that you brought forth in this video. So thank you so much. Before we sign off, I just wanted to remind everyone that the TADE team is here to help employers navigate TADE resources, so please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. The links for the HR Toolkit, as we mentioned, and the next video, in fact, are in the description below. I encourage you to visit our website, follow ICTC on Twitter and LinkedIn for more events, for our top-notch labor market information, capacity building programs, and expertise on the digital economy. Again, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.